Hey everybody, how you doing today? It's Lee, PlayGuitarAcademy.com. I hope you're all having a good Monday today. I'm definitely having a Monday. That's all I gotta say. It's definitely been a Monday. We've got Evan. I see Evan. I see Kevin. How you guys doing today? Wonderful to see you here. We're going to let me pop this chat out. Um, so I can just kind of keep up with it a little bit better here. This is the live taping of the Play Guitar podcast. We do this every Monday. Hey, there's some good chat. We do this every Monday. In fact, we've been hanging out all. Evan says definitely a Monday. Lee. Yeah, it's definitely a Monday. We're just gonna have fun today. I started getting super stressed out about this about 40 all day maybe, but we're just gonna have some fun today. We're gonna have a good podcast, have some fun talking about David Gilmour, and got a lot of stuff going on. It's definitely a Monday today. So we got a few folks in here. So feel free to say hi in the chat. Love to hear from you as we go through this. We're going to start the podcast in a few minutes, and I've been trying to get the so I can hear the theme song and you guys can hear it too. May not happen today. May just be you hearing the theme song. I'm gonna do my best to pretend like I know what I'm talking about without hearing the music. But for next week, I'm gonna rig up a system where I can just punch the music in when as I'm doing it right there, so we won't have that problem anymore. That should be fixed by next week. Okay. So, hey, Dean's here. Hey, Dean, great to see you. Great to see you. So, how we do this is there's three main topics of the podcast, and I check the chat before we start, and then I take a little break in between each topic, and then I check the chat there. This one's not going to be super long like the last couple of those. So, we went over a lot of this over the weekend, but I've got some new stuff here, especially the gear things. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, so I'm going to, any questions you guys have or anything, just I'll be back to check that in a little bit. Okay, getting my notes together here for the podcast. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. Today, how about we try that again? Let's try that again one more time. First word I got off track on. Monday. Okay. Today I take a good look at the style of David Gilmour. Lots of players can play his solos. They play him note for note. But today I take a look behind the tabs and talk about the technique, gear, scale choices, and a few of my own licks that were inspired by his playing. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to episode 121 of the Play Guitar Podcast. I'm Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitarist that you always wanted to be. We're going to have a really fun, laid-back episode today. We've been having some really cool live streams over the past weekend. Had a really good group of folks on Saturday on a new show that we've been doing called Guitar Talk. This is our third episode of Guitar Talk, and I have a panel of some founding members and some just anybody who shows up who wants to hang out with us and talk about the topic for the week. And we did a David Gilmour versus Joe Satriani this past weekend. We kind of talked about the two players, and we listened to some clips of the two players, and we talked about what the similarities are and the differences are, and then what we could take away in our own playing to really get better on the guitar in that style. It was pretty neat. It came about because I'd asked the question, what are some guitar players you'd like to know a little bit more about? And Jimi Hendrix was the first one that popped up, and we did that, I'd say 2 weeks ago. And that went over real well. Everybody had a good time with that. So we did it again. David Gilmour and Joe Satriani were the next two. So I thought I'd combine them, have some fun with that. But today, we're just going to focus a little bit more and have some fun, laid back talking about one of our favorite guitar players, David Gilmour. And let's see, what were some of the... when we go deeper, focusing on David Gilmour, I just want to preface this that I'm not an expert on David Gilmour. I'm a fan. I have gone to see him play. I've listened to him my whole life. I've listened to David Gilmour. So, but I never got super nitpicky into that. If you if you're looking for super nerdy Gilmour stuff, this will not be for you. You know what, guys? I'm going to start this over. Okay, because I didn't hit record on my other two things. So we're going to try this again. Okay. And I appreciate you guys. This is what happens on Mondays like this. I need to record the video and I need to record the audio on my player here. So I'm going to start recording now and start recording there now. Sorry about that. We're going to start this again and hopefully I'll get that intro right. Okay. Start again. Take 2. Today I take a good look at the style of David Gilmour. Lots of players can play his solos note for note. Today I take a look behind the tabs and talk about the technique, gear, scale choices, and a few of my own licks that were inspired by his playing. So stay tuned. Hello and welcome, friends, to episode 121 of the Play Guitar Podcast. I'm Lee, and this is the podcast that's determined to make you a better guitar player. No matter if you're just starting out or you've been playing for years, this is the show that will help you become the guitarist that you always wanted to be. Take 2. This is Monday rearing its ugly head today. I'm so happy you guys are here, especially people who are watching live on YouTube. Let me make sure everything's going. Yep, everything's going good. We're gonna have some fun today. I've had to restart again because make sure I was recording everything. I didn't have Josh here to remind me to press record on my 2 other devices here. So we're gonna talk about David Gilmour today. Now, a little disclaimer: I'm not an expert on David Gilmour at all. I'm a fan. If you're looking for super nerdy Gilmour stuff, this is not the one for you. This is like the 30,000 foot view from the plane looking down on everything. This is stuff that we could use to take away to make ourselves play better in his style. How did this come about? Well, weekend hangouts. We have a lot of weekend hangouts. We have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then these Mondays where we do the podcast live. And we have a great group of folks. We talked about who would you like to talk about. We started with Jimi Hendrix. That was about 2 weeks ago. And then the next people that came up was David Gilmour and Joe Satriani. And we have on Saturdays a show called Guitar Talk. It's every Saturday at 4 p.m. and I get a panel of guitar players and we sit around and talk about different topics. And this week we had a showdown, a Gilmour versus Satriani showdown, and it was a lot of fun. super fun, and we got into his playing, Joe's playing, what was different about their styles, what was similar about them. We talked about gear. That was a lot of fun. We talked for over an hour. It had a really good time. Listened to some different clips too. So we all started the clips at the same time and then came back and talked about what we thought about that. So today I'm going to go deeper, and we're just going to focus on one of those players. Today we're going to focus on David Gilmour. This is going to be laid back. Already we're having issues, so we're just going to get through this today. And like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm just a fan. But we are going to do is find out the important things and the things we can take away, thus to improve our own playing. All right. Let's start. Let's talk about David Gilmour. Who is he? He's famous for being the guitar player for Pink Floyd. With his English band in the 60s and went through the 70s, on till, in different incarnations till today, or recently. And David Gilmour was the second guitarist. He wasn't the first guitar player. Sid Barrett was, and he had to leave the band, and David replaced him. Also added vocals, became another lead singer. Fantastic singer. Band sold tons of records. Everybody knows that. And also, when he left Pink Floyd, started and did his own solo band. Didn't leave when Roger Waters left. They kind of did other things. David Gilmour always does his solo band things, but then came back as Pink Floyd with Gilmour fronting the band. And I've said that's the tour that I've seen before. And so he's one of my favorite guitar players, and I just love the way he plays. And so what we did was we're going to talk about some of the choices that David Gilmour makes when he's playing guitar. Choices meaning scale patterns, the way he uses effects, vibrato, all the different things that makes his style unique. So we listened to a clip. What was the clip? The clip was Evan asked about this. He said "Coming Back to Life," the first solo, and so he had everyone listen to that. And then I asked, well, what would you say that sounded like? How did that make you feel when you heard his playing? And here's some of the things that were said. It was atmospheric. It was expressive. Someone said it was lyrical. The next one was that he plays with a lot of space in his playing, and has a very vocal quality to his playing. That's that's what you want, man. That's the goal, to really get emotions across and create a whole feel with your guitar playing. So how does he do that? How does he make that happen? That's what we need to know. We need to know what are the choices he makes, and what are the tools that he uses to get that atmospheric, lyrical quality. So the first thing we want to talk about is space. Making your guitar sound big. Space is area, not space as like leaving holes. We'll talk about that in a second. But bigness of the guitar. How does one do that? How do you make your guitar sound like it's taking up a lot of room? Most times you hear a guitar, if it doesn't have any effects on it, it sounds thin. And you try to beef it up with EQ and all of those different things, and it never quite gets to his type sound. So one of the biggest things that he uses to make that happen is delay. He uses a lot of delay, and it sets the mood of the song, especially with the Coming Back to Life. That beginning, it's just over a keyboard, a bed of keyboard music. That's it's almost soundtrack like. It's very atmospheric, and it blended in so well. His delay sounds like he's in an enormous hall or room, So delay is one of the first things that he uses for that. Another thing he uses to make it sound more vocal is the way he sets his pedals and his amps and his guitars up. He plays on the edge of breakup, and I'm gonna put a link to the YouTube video that Coming Back to Life in the show notes. Haven't done that yet, but I'll do that by the time this goes out. And you can hear exactly what we're talking about. He can dig in with his pick. Let's see here. And when he plays clean, softer, it comes out clean. So on that note, I have the gain set so that when I play hard, you get some sustain, but when I play soft, it's almost like a singer with a raspy voice when they push the melodies, that it just breaks up ever so slightly and gives a very warm sound to it. And so he sets his guitars up, not all the time. He has some solos where he's just full on saturated distortion, which are fine too. But I think his most expressive is where he's got that kind of half clean, half distorted sound. What's the problem with that though is sometimes you don't have a whole lot of sustain. So he also uses a compressor pedal to give a lot of sustain to even his clean sounds. So you get that kind of compression when you crank your amp anyway. But adding that compressor in there really seems to just last and last and last, which gives that kind of smooth atmospheric sound too. Another thing he uses that vibrato, taking notes, a very wide vibrato, not a short, fast one. And that's with the left. That's not the fretting hand, whether you're left-handed or right-handed. The fretting hand. But he also achieves that with the whammy bar too. He plays Stratocasters a lot, but he also played a Steinberger that had one of those really fancy tremolos on there. He makes a lot of use of a tremolo, and I don't have that set up on my guitar, but uses the same thing, even for whole chords, or different lines. That wide, slow vibrato that gives a very atmospheric, expressive sound. Let's talk about bending notes. That's one of the other playing choices that he uses to get the effect. A vocal sound. So we're talking about the vocal part of it. When you bend, his bends you tend to be slower. He's not like a rock and roll bend. His bends tend to go up a whole step. From all the ones that I'm not saying that for every song, but for all the ones that I've take a look at, his bends will usually be very slow, and they go a whole step underneath and go up into the note. And sometimes he'll match that on the next string with the payoff note. So right now I'm bending the D note on the G string, which is on the 7th fret. And when I bend it up a whole step, it's going to sound like the 9th fret, the E note. Well, you've got an E note where your first finger is on the 5th fret right here. And so that really, really, really pays off well when you take your time with those bends. It really gives a vocal quality. The voice tends to swoop into notes anyway. So that lends to his vocal, expressive, atmospheric sound. But there's another part to it. It's still rock and roll. it's Pink Floyd, it's that kind of style, but he still has a rock and roll, a blues, really blues sensibility to his sound. He's not playing like we saw with Joe Satriani. He's not playing extremely technical. He's playing a very pentatonic based sound. He will use the pentatonics in a certain way, and then when it's effective when he wants to get more melodic, he'll start adding the notes in from the full major scale or the minor scale, depending on the song that he's using. You don't hear David Gilmour playing a lot of outside sounds. He doesn't play a lot of tension notes at all. He stays very melodic. So that's one of the reasons why people love his playing so much. He's a very inside player. Most of the tension that he gets is from those bends and from the tone, the distortions and things like that. Okay, so that is topic number one. And we've talked a little bit about Dave, and then we talked about his playing choices. I'm going to take a break, check the chat, and then we'll be back for the second part in just a second. Okay. Let's check the chat, see what's going on. Evan said, okay, definitely a Monday. So Dean's here. Hey, Dean. Gilmour-ish, if you're a nerdy fan. Yeah, it's a great website, but man, I couldn't get into every single detail. They have studied him and studied him. And Dean says, at least you caught it early. Yeah, I did. I caught it early. Definitely a Monday. Whew. Dino's here. Hey, Dino, how you doing? Good to see you. And Chris is here. Good to see you guys too. Evan says his voice is so good. And then Bob Erzin said of David Gilmour, he could play a ukulele and make it sound like a Stradivarius. Yeah, definitely. And Joshua's here. Hey, Joshua, how you doing? Dave's your favorite. That's great. And Evan's right in there too. And Evan says his next guitar build would be a Strat with a trem bar. My Telly doesn't have one. I've actually got this Strat isn't. This has got a rosewood neck and a black pickguard, but it's outlined. I have another Strat in storage right now that has the black pickguard that's not outlined and a maple neck. It looks just like the Strat we're going to be talking about. Excuse me, in just a second. So Kevin's here too. Kevin says, absolutely love Gilmour, my fave too. And then Josh says, love my Telly neck. Feels faster, but my Strat was my first since 2000. Yeah, the Telly neck, I had a Highway 1 Telly for a few years. I ended up selling it because I just didn't play it a whole lot. But I love the neck on that too. My issue with the Telly was the bridge. I'm so used to a Strat, and that bridge just didn't feel quite right for me, so I just wouldn't gravitate towards it. But I had a nice one. I'd probably like to get another one again, something with a different bridge on it. This was the one that they have that little ashtray cover on, and when you take it off, it kind of digs into your hand a little bit. So, okay. So I'm up to date on the chat. Good to see everybody here. And we're going to talk about gear in just a second. So I'll check back in with you when we're done with part 2. Okay, here we go. Part 2, Dave Gilmour's gear. This is really important. Seeing someone like Dave Gilmour, who's a master, he could play any. I'm going to start this over again. Here we go. Monday. I was about to say what we were talking about in the chat, how you said he could play anything, a ukulele, and sound like a Stradivarius, but that was you, not me. So, okay. Part 2, David Gilmour's gear. David Gilmour has played a lot of different gear. If you go over to gilmourish.com, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes too, and check out all the history of the different gear that he used. It is overwhelming. He uses anything and everything, and it still always sounds like him, which is, of course, that's the goal too. But for me and for I a lot of us that doesn't happen. We struggle with gear. We're trying to get those sounds that we want, and it's always an uphill battle. But for him, it seems like if you just go through the different pages of all the different gear that he's used in different time periods, um, it's overwhelming. But what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the iconic gear that he used. We're not getting super nerdy into this. We're going to talk about the stuff that we could use on our own to get some of the sounds like he does. Now, so we're going to start with guitars. The first guitar, obviously, that we're going to talk about is David's Black Stratocaster. Now, I had heard that he had sold a lot of his guitars. And so before we did the podcast today, I went and read up a little bit about that, and he sold the good ones. I figured, oh, he'll just sell off some of the, some of the stuff he's not using. No, he sold the good ones. So the Black Strat, his iconic Black Strat, it's the one with the maple neck, black body, and the black pickguard with the white pickup covers and knobs and all of that. And it's the one with the early Floyd stuff that you just think of him as being, that is the guitar that he plays. That sold for $3.975 million recently. Whew. Goodness gracious. But that let's see, I've got some things. He played it on early albums, and I think he's got some relic copies of that as well, maybe though he plays those. And that guitar was the most expressive guitar ever sold. And from what I understand, we're going to talk about pickups in a minute. The pickups that he used in that guitar were not active pickups like you would think, because they sell, there's a David Gilmour set, which is an active set of pickups, and that wasn't it. I think he may have, we're going to talk about a bridge pickup that he did drop into his regular Strats. But before we do that, let's talk about his other Stratocaster that he's known for. That's the 0001 Strat. And that was the serial number on the neck for that Strat. They're not so sure about the body. I know there's a lot of, you can get really nerdy about that too. But it's a white body, maple neck. I think it had a gold, I don't know if it's an anodized plate or a pick guard there. It's a really beautiful guitar. And I think it had come to him through Seymour Duncan, and it sounded wonderful. That one, guess what? He sold that one too for $1,815,000 for what year do they say it was? 54, I think they think, but they're not sure there. But wow, $1.815 million for a Stratocaster. So the Strats are his guitars. That's what he's known for. But that's not the only guitar that he used. He also would play was acoustic that he's known for, that he sold recently, that he wrote most of his stuff on, is a Martin D35, and that one he also sold. He's known for playing a Les Paul for a while, and he recorded, I think it was on Another Brick in the Wall, he recorded a solo with a Les Paul, which he's parted with as well. But the one that I always remember the most is the Steinberger. Do you remember those guitars? The head didn't have a headstock on it. Just the guitar ended right at the top of the fretboard, and it was thin and had that really cool tremolo system on it as well. So he's played a lot of different guitars, but the Stratocaster is what he's known for. Let's talk about the pickups. He, with his regular Stratocasters, he would leave the two bridge, the neck in the middle pickup as normal from the guitar, but he would replace the bridge with an overwound Seymour Duncan pickup, which you can still get as SSL 5. and that was made for him, wound. It's one of the ways that he gets a lot of those sounds. That pickup is kind of a secret ingredient. But he also came out with I think his Red Stratocaster. He is when he started using the active pickups, and those are an EMG set of pickups, which have a lot of mid boosts on them, similar to like the Clapton um, active pickups, and you can get more of a humbuckery sound by dialing it in and rolling it out, and that's the DG20 EMG pickup set, which I've never played, but I was this close to buying it, putting it one on a whim to put it in one of my guitars. I didn't do that though. So we're Strat heavy with the guitars, but let's move on to amplifiers. He's used tons of different amplifiers. How do you go through all of that? Well, we're not going to. We're going to talk about his main ones, and mostly that's what he plays live, and that's his High Watt Custom 100 head. He also uses Fane speakers in that. I think it's called a WEM cab, and they're 100-watt Fane 12-inch speakers. Every little bit of the signal path is important to him. If you've ever seen his pedal boards and the racks of gear, every single step in the chain is important, all the way down to the speakers. So, but he also uses a lot of Fenders, a lot of Fender amps, a lot of Tweed amps, and all different kinds. But that High Watt, that's the one that he's known for, right there. How about pedals? Just going through some of the websites about his pedals, it's overwhelming, the gear, but he's got some ones that I've found seem to be his main pedals, and one is the Chandler Tube Driver. And Chandler Tube Driver, Eric Johnson also uses this pedal. It's got an actual tube inside of it, and it's usually used in tandem with the overdrive with a driven amp. They don't sound good plugged into like a clean Fender amp. This was for his High Watt that's already got some gain and distortion to it there. But that Cliffs of Dover sound from Eric Johnson is another tube driver type sound. He also uses a tube screamer, a rat pedal. These are all things that I got tube screamers right here. I don't have a rat on me right now, but these are things everybody can use. Early on, he used a lot of fuzz and a big muff from Electro Harmonics, things you can still get. And he used a lot. He used EQ pedals and a Dynacomp compressor pedals. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what a compressor pedal does in a second, and how that where you'll hear them the most, and how Dave used it right there. Okay, so we'll do that right now. Compressor pedals, and these are something that a lot of guitar players are not familiar with. You don't see a lot of boards with compressor pedals on them. A compressor pedal squashes your sound. It can do a lot of different things depending on how many knobs that you have on there. If you've got one of the 1 knob or 2 knob compressor pedals, it basically takes when you hit above a certain threshold. So if your guitar, the volume the level comes through above that, it'll bring it down, so that the distance between a soft sound and a loud sound aren't so great. Okay, it compresses the sound. It sounds like it brings the low and the high, the quiet sounds and the loud sounds to almost the same sound. You hear compressors all the time. Right now, my voice is going through a compressor. It's anytime you listen to go to Spotify and listen to any recorded music, it's full of compressors. And also when you play guitar through a distorted sound, you're in fact doing some compressing. The distortion will clip. Means that as the gain is so high, and there's a certain ceiling where it can't go any higher. So you keep pushing it in there, it's going to chop off the top of the waveform. If you've ever seen a waveform of a distorted signal, it's kind of like a line. It doesn't. There's no peaks and valleys. It's all together. So distortion will do that as well. But say you wanted to have a clean sound that had a lot of sustain to it. So normally a clean sound you'll hear an attack in the beginning, and then it drops pretty quickly. Now, what would happen with the compressor pedal is when that first part of the note or chord that you play comes in loud, it lowers that. So as it drops off here, it still sounds pretty even with that very low quality, and then you just boost the whole thing back up to how loud you want it. You have a nice clean sustain sound. Country guitar players, chicken picking guitar players use a lot of compressor pedals because they want to have a clean sound, but they want to have a lot of sustain, like the other guitar players get who are cranking their amps. So you hear a lot of different Albert Lee, all those guys that they would do, Brent Mason, they all use different compressor pedals. The Boss CS2 is a big one. Lots of different ones. So that might be something you might want to try. Checking out a compressor pedal, see what it does to your sound. A lot of people will use them with distortion too, beforehand or after the distortion. So if you use a compressor before your distortion pedal, it's going to take the clean sound of your guitar and compress it before it hits the drive. So, but some people like to put it after the drive pedal. So you come in, you distort your signal, and then that whole thing gets clamped down with the compressor. It's two different sounds, and worth experimenting with. So that's the basic gear that Dave Gilmour's known for. There's a lot more. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but nothing here that's out of, a high watt custom 100 is probably out of reach for a lot of people with the Fane speakers. But a Marshall type amp, a Marshall type sound is not out of the possibilities to get. And then these pedals, which are available, you can even use something like the Line 6 M9 that has a lot of different models of these style pedals here to get something very similar right there. Okay, so I'm going to take a break, check the chat, and then we'll finish up with part 3. So let's see here. Dave's my fave. Evan's me too. We talked about that. Oh, and the only one came in, Chris came in. Sorry I'm late. Had a few things to do. Hope the podcast is going well. Let me tell you, Chris, it's one of those days. But we're having fun. So I'm going to finish up with 2 licks that I came up with. And I'm going to have these available. I'll tell everybody in the podcast. I'm going to have these available for downloads. These 2. I may do a few more. I'm not sure, but I definitely have these 2. And what I did was listen to the clips that one of the clips we did, and then one of the other ones someone had suggested, and I took my take on them. So kind of playing in the style of David Gilmour. So that's what we're going to do in the next section. And I'm going to go ahead and get that started right now. Let me check my phone real quick. Okay. Let me get my sounds together. Okay. Okay, got that together. So now that we've looked at David's gear and some of the choices that he makes to really create this style of guitar that everybody seems to. What am I talking about? Start again. So now that we've taken a look at the choices that Dave makes for these to get his style of music, and then also the gear that he uses to make this happen, what I thought I'd do is I would go and listen to some of the clips that we talked about over the weekend, and listen to some of his solos, and then make a couple licks in that style, something that we could try out, and we could see what scales that he's using for that, and also some of the bends and the different things that he uses to get that atmospheric sound. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here to the first one. So I call this Gilmour 1. Okay, and this is one of the Edge of Breakup clean lead sounds. And I listened to that first clip, Coming Back to Life, that Evan had suggested, and came up with this. Okay, so I'm gonna play a little C bed underneath that right there. So let me. So what key are we in here? We're in the key of C, and this is basically over the C major pentatonic. I've got my Edge of Breakup Fender. I've got delay. And we're going to start out on the 8th fret with the pinky on the B string. And I'm using my picking hand, I'm using my middle finger to play the B, and then the pick to play the G string. So I'm basically making a sequence of fourths, which came out actually in one of the lessons this week. So I was thinking about that, but I thought it sounded nice in this. And a very slow bend from 7. And then I follow that with an actual slide into 9. And that lasts for that 9, when I'm slid up to that, lasts for a whole measure. And then we have 8th note rest, and then 8th notes. That's what I did. So we're going to have 5th fret on a G, 8th fret on the B, 5th fret on G. So go just back and forth with that. A slide to 10 on the high E string, and then a bend at 10, and following up to 12. So we're following the bent note, the note that it bends up into, and then playing the note with vibrato that we bent up to make sound like that right afterwards, which is a technique he uses. So I'm going to try that again. played with the rhythms a little bit. Hey, how about that? Can you hear that? I know you can. We'll give it a second to go past. Okay, so I kind of played with the rhythms. I didn't play exactly as I had written the rhythms out the first time. But okay, so let's move on to the next one. I've got another solo here, and this one is more. This one I did after listening to. Let me go back to what the other clip was I listened to. This was after listening to the solo for Hey You. And Hey You's not slow and everything like that, but it has a really kicked in E minor rocked up solo. So this is going to be different. I'm going to use more of a saturated Marshall. Let's see. So we're in, at this point, we're not in major pentatonic anymore. We're in minor pentatonic, but we're adding in notes from the full minor scale. Actually listening to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the minor sixth interval, which is very Gilmour sounding. And then a slow bend on the B string on the 15th fret. And following that up with the note you were bending up to. And vibrato. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. With hammer on and pull off. And then a climb up high. So let's see here. The last two measures, we have 14, 15, 17, 15, 17, 19. Those are all eighth notes. 1 and 2 and. So 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 4. Not the same thing, just inspired by him right there. So I'm gonna do a little E minor loop there for that. Okay, let's try this with a little background. So it doesn't sound exactly in his style because the background wasn't going through chords. I just stayed on one single E minor chord. But you get the idea. We have the long vibratos. We have the long bends. We're basically staying in the pentatonic, but we're adding notes from the full minor scale there to get some really, I think, some really convincing Gilmour style licks right there. Okay. So those are the ones I prepared for you. You can go over to playguitaracademy.com, and I'll have right up at the top of the page, I will have a links where you can download these licks right here. You can also check out the show notes page and the description below this video right there. So there it is. I just want to make sure if you are interested in taking your blues soloing a little bit farther, head on over to freeblueslesson.com. I have a 6-part video course for free. A lot of people have taken it. And you can start to see some of these pentatonic lead ideas and some ideas to really bring your blues soloing into focus, which also ties into with a lot of what David Gilmour is doing, because he's, to me, is a blues-based player. And that's over at freeblueslesson.com. Well, that's going to be a wrap for me today. Let me switch over here so I can say goodbye. There we go. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining me today for the Play Guitar Podcast. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast player. Also, I appreciate it if you could leave a review for the show. If you're just starting or you're new to the guitar, head on over to starthereguitar.com. You can check out my premium 11-week beginner's course, and that gives you the foundations you need to move forward correctly on the guitar. Follow me on all of my different social media pages. Links to them are at playguitaracademy.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next episode. Oh, goodness gracious. What do you think? Some good stuff in there? I think there's some good stuff in there. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to check the chat here real quick. See who we got. So, Chris said, be interested to hear the compressor in different positions at some sort or in a gear episode. Yeah, I'll grab a compressor and do that. That'd be fun. Evan came in a little bit later, and Kevin's working as he listens. But he'd rather pick up his guitar and play. That's right. Chris says, nice licks, Lee. And Dina says, thanks, Lee. Very cool stuff as always. Good riffing while watching. Cool. Thanks, Lee. Cool stuff. That was great. Thank you, Joshua. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thanks, Kevin, too. I'm glad it came off pretty well. Like I'm happy. I'm happy with that. Yeah, Chris, go ahead. If you start from the beginning, you'll see me do it 2 times. We had a little hiccup there at the beginning. Kenny says that was good stuff. Oh, I don't know. But it's good to see you, Kenny. I hope everything's going good with you and your family. Kenny, it's good to see you. So I'm going to do some video intros and outros real quick while I'm recording here. I'm also going to check the exposure on this. It gets a little bright this time of day, so I'm going to bring the gain down a little bit. See if that looks a little. Hey, that looks a little bit better. Okay, so let me check out my. So if you guys want to hang out, that's cool. I'm going to hang out for a little bit, but I'm going to go and do some intros and outros for the videos. Okay, so this will be intro number 1. Let's see here. Hey there, I'm Lee from playguitaracademy.com. I help frustrated guitar players get back to getting better at the guitar. Today, I'm spending some time looking at the choices that David Gilmour makes to get that otherworldly, atmospheric, but still rock sound. There's one. Okay, let's do intro to video 2. See what it is. Take a look at the most iconic gear that David Gilmour used. Wait till the truck goes past. Hey there, I'm Lee from Play Guitar Academy. I help frustrated guitar players get back to getting better at the guitar. In this video, I take a look at the most iconic gear that David Gilmour used in Pink Floyd and also in his solo band. Okay, and here's intro number 3 for video number 3. Kill that. Okay, intro number 3. Hey there, I'm Lee from playguitaracademy.com. I help frustrated guitar players get back to getting better at the guitar. In this video, I teach you how to play 2 licks that were inspired from 2 of David Gilmour's most famous, most popular solos. I think I'd do that one again. Hey there, I'm Lee from playguitaracademy.com. I help frustrated guitar players get back to getting better at the guitar. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to play 2 licks that were inspired from 2 of David Gilmour's most popular solos. I like that one. And let's do an outro here. Let's see here. Thanks so much for watching my video today. Make sure that you head on over to freeblueslesson.com so you can sign up for my free 6-part video course about getting your blues solos under control. If you have any questions for me or you'd like the video, leave a comment below. I'm so thankful for you. One more time. Thanks so much for watching my video today. I just want to make sure that you head on over to freeblueslesson.com and sign up for my free 6-part video course. It's called Get Your Blues Solos Under Control. So thankful for you watching my videos today and also subscribing to the channel. Make sure you check out the other videos in this series, and I'll see you real soon. Good enough, right? So how about this? Got that, and let's see. Different things like that. So if I can grab a thumbnail off of this, and I'm going to go back to chat, hang out with you guys for a little bit. Thanks for bearing with me through those things. Okay, so Kenny says, yeah, that was good stuff. And then he says, can you cover settings? Yeah, I could do another video about that. I could, I think what would be fun is to just take some standard gear and try and get as close as we can to David Gilmour sounds, and then I could go through all the settings for that. I have to get my amps back, and so I have to wait till I can get my stuff back. But I don't know. Maybe I could borrow an amp or something like that. But definitely, Kenny, I think that's a good idea. And Kenny says we're getting better. Thanks. Good. That's good. I'm glad. Chris says, I've been listening to Calvin Russell today and learning his song last night and dialing in some tones for it. Sounds like a Gear episode. Yeah, that's right. That's right. I don't know much about Calvin Russell, so I'm going to, that's one, send me some stuff. I'll check that out. That sounds like fun. Okay, so thanks guys. I'm going to go ahead and call it. We're coming right up on 5 o'clock. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me all weekend. This was, Evan just popped in. He said, hopefully this gets some good traction on YouTube. People are sure always searching for how to play like Dave. Yeah, I've been learning about this. And what happens is sometimes every once in a while you get one that gets some traction. But normally what happens is when you start posting regularly, then YouTube starts throwing this stuff out. So even though now, we have a small but mighty group of people, as I'm doing these, I'm putting a video up every day, either live or a regular video. At some point, the algorithm's going to start push all of this stuff out too. So this is going to be out there at some point, and it's going to be good. And in the meantime, we're just going to have fun and do all that. And at one point, this YouTube stuff will catch up to the podcast too. So we're just going to be consistent with it. So Evan says, see Lee, can't wait to catch up on this one. And Dina says, thanks again, Lee. Bye everyone. Okay, everybody. I will say, oh, thanks for the link, Chris. Let me copy that real quick. I'm going to copy that for later. Okay. Thanks, Evan. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you hanging out with me today. And next time I'm live is on Friday, but we'll have videos all out through the week going on this. All right. Let's see here. Where's my YouTube? There it is. Okay. See you guys Friday. Bye-bye.